Hello, I'm Michael Glasman, bringing you this video submission for Architecture at Waterloo. Architecture would be an appropriate course for me to study because it suits my skill set, that being my academic capability and my deep interest in the arts. I've been drawing since I was 6, but only in the last 2 years have I really sat down to hone my skills. I hope to find genuine instruction for how I can improve and what I should be working on. I hope to make this hobby into a career someday, and I hope that this course can help me do just that. I want to find myself in a place where I am among like-minded people working towards improving themselves. And from an outsider looking in, I think Waterloo would not disappoint me in that regard. Attending art classes at the Hamilton Art Conservatory is when I think my interest for pursuing the arts and architecture peaked. It was a space where everybody had their needs being met despite the age of the building showing. The building itself did not need to be modernized. In fact, I think that due to its age and everlasting presence, that the space felt more humane. The art students, myself included, would have their classes situated in the attic. And despite being in the attic, it was a place that I enjoyed returning to every single week to paint, even if the heater did not work half the time during the cold winter months. This feeling of intimacy that I experienced at the conservatory is one that I want to replicate through my art in the future. Very recently, I started learning about perspective, this being my first art piece where I tried to apply this concept. I became interested in pursuing this fundamental due to a criticism that I often receive, that being that I have too much negative space in my work. To fill out this negative space, I encourage myself to create environments in my art. The second goal that I had was to create something original. As a result, I did not use any references and made everything from imagination. My materials were also something I haven't seen anybody else use, that being an inkwell and a water brush pen. The final result came out to be something amateurish. The tones are inconsistent, the forms don't always follow the rules, and I left a lot of negative space to be filled out. Despite this, I think it was important for me to share because it's the one piece that will see a lot of growth in the future. Graphite is a medium that I think most artists start off with. For me, graphite to this day remains one that I would take over any other. For my portfolio, this piece is one that I think I had the most fun with, despite the dull subject. All in all, I had issues in the consistency of tone due to the large page that I was working with. I experienced inconsistency due to me taking it one piece at a time instead of looking at the page as a whole. The area that I had the most trouble with was in between the glass and the area of protruding cloth. I had issues in this section because I did not entirely know what I was looking at or where the forms were going. After completing the piece, I began to notice how professionals would use tone to represent form instead of vice versa. So this is something that I want to try in the future to help me create more consistency. I'm not much of a painter. I expect a high degree of control out of the materials that I use. For painting, I think those desires are thrown out the window. Despite this, I understand how diversifying my skills would only help me to improve. In this recreation of Fabula, I think I demonstrated my perseverance through my love-hate relationship with color theory and painting in general. In the this piece, I think I lost a lot of my forms due to my heavy focus on getting the colors just right. For example, the chimp's mane and the yellow coat were all places that I think looked very flat in comparison to the faces. I will continue to develop my skills in mediums different from the ones that I prefer, despite what anybody suggests or asks of me. I do this not only to diversify my skills, but to magnify the ones that I do want to showcase in the future. The pandemic has made me come to realize that public spaces need to be more dynamic. For example, when I worked at a grocery store during the pandemic, a lot of the floor space needed to be rearranged to accommodate the new regulations. These changes probably would not have been able to come into place if the building's interior was not able to be dynamic. This demonstration of how form follows function occurred right in front of my eyes. Outside of the pandemic, I've begun to notice how domestic spaces have also begun to be more open. This is to accommodate the ever increasingly diverse family needs. I think that the pandemic only cemented the reality that architects need to envision how their spaces are being used, not only in the present, but in the future as well.